Good evening. Welcome everyone here to Cadillac Planning Commission meeting here for October 23rd, 2017. Everyone's already turned off cell phones. We're all good. So if everyone would please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could we have roll call, please?
Vilkins.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Peterson. Here. Schichtel.
Here.
Gregg.
Here.
Fent.
Here.
Putvin.
Here. Thank you, sir. Agenda's not humongous. So anyway, I need an approval here for the agenda here for October 23rd, 2017, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Ms.
second it.
Wilkins, seconded by Mr. Smith.
Gregg.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Schichtel.
Yes.
Fent.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Vilkins.
Yes.
Putvin.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, for everyone that follows us, we have not been here since April 24th. That was our last meeting here, 2017. So anyway, just updating everyone who missed us. At this time, just need approval of the meeting minutes from April 24th, 2017.
Move we accept the minutes as reported.
I'll second it.
Seconded Mr. Fent, Smith and Fent.
Fent.
Yes.
Vilkins.
Yes.
Schichtel.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Peterson. Yes. Gregg.
Yes.
Putvin.
Yes. Hopefully, I see he's still open over there, but I don't know if it's a haunted house or still a haunted garage or what
It
it is. But
might become a permanent haunted house.
Now this is the time for that to really kick off.
Yeah.
People can't work outside anymore. So.
there. So I hope David there is doing okay. Anyway, tonight, new business for this evening. We are holding a public hearing and a possible action on an application for a special land use at 408/410 North Mitchell Street as a tattoo parlor. The site is Zone B3, general business. Having read that, I will now turn it over to Mr. Wallace.
Thank you. In your packets or on your desk as well is my staff report. I apologize for the late nature of it. Marcus and I were out of town for a couple days attending the Michigan Downtown Association conference, and so that kind of sidelined us a little bit. This application for this site is it's in a building that's two buildings together. It's the Barn Social, and the buildings are directly together. The plan is to virtually connect the two buildings internally to make it like a mini mall type thing of artistic oriented businesses. The owner of the Barn Social, they run a screen printing business out of there. They also recycle products and sell products, like a sewing machine stand with a circular table on top, and there's also someone doing inside planting bar where you learn to come in and plant flowers in vases and jars and things, and they teach you how to do that and take care of it and all that type of thing. And there's a variety of different art things going on in there. There's some painting instruction. In the new building where Mr. Telcott is proposed to go, he will be taking space a little over 500 square feet, and will be running a personal studio. He's going to be the only person working in the studio. And you'll see in the report, he is only typically would have 1 to 2 clients per day, so it's not a use that would draw a lot of people to the site. He plans to operate on normal business hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Prior to opening, he would be required to receive a health inspection from the state, from the local health department. So that's something that would have to happen as well. We haven't received any comments from the general public in terms of people coming in or people sending in letters or anything. So there's virtually no correspondence from the public on this case. I've included in my report, there's a lot of general commercial business in this immediate area. You have the auto dealership, Pell's Appliance, the Legion offices, Peterson's Auto. You're probably all familiar with that general area. So in terms of the intensity of businesses, this is certainly not something that would raise the intensity to a greater level than what exists in the immediate area. And when I reviewed the standard questions for special land use, I felt that the proposal was in line with the response to all those questions. Of course, there's always the ability for this board to arrive at a different conclusion, but at least in my looking at it, I think his business with the artistic side of tattoos certainly falls in line with a variety of uses that they're looking to have in there. In the building that he'll be occupying, there will probably be at least 2 other business operations. One is yet to be established who that'll be. They're still looking for a use. And I think they're also looking at putting in a kind of a coffee bar in that second building. There will be a hallway established between the 2 buildings, and there will also be a front door to the building that he will be in as well, as I understand it. So people will be able to come in either building, but they'll also be able to easily connect from building to building on the inside. And there will also be a restroom put in his side of the building as well. It's another planned improvement. So I think they're just looking at kind of just giving a lot of smaller businesses an opportunity to work off of each other, have energy off of each other in terms of being rather unique artistic businesses. So in that regard, I think what he's doing fits perfectly. We had a chance to chat this morning. He was informing me of his background. He has quite a few years' experience, has worked in numerous locations throughout the state of Michigan, has clientele not only locally but around the state, and even sometimes people coming in from beyond the state in terms of having tattoos done. So he takes the art form serious, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but does not work on minor children even when there's a parent approval to do that. So I think that's probably a good thing in terms of not ending up in situations where people come back later and say, well, why did you do this, you know? So, but I think that's kind of the basics for it. Certainly, Mr. Talcott's here to answer any questions you have, and whether you want to have him do that prior to opening the public hearing or...
Yeah, we'll probably do that. Could you also, though, explain to the board here that he has to fulfill some stuff yet?
Sure. In my memo, I included that tonight the only action you could take is if you were inclined to want to turn down the special use permit. And you cannot take an affirmative vote tonight, because to take an affirmative vote, he would have to have his signatures in. So if you find, like I did, that it's a proposal that you would like to approve, the proper motion tonight would be to table the special land use permit to your next meeting. That would give the applicant a chance to gather signatures. He needs 51% of the businesses and residences within 300 feet to sign forms that are saying that they don't have an issue with the use. And the reason for that extra hurdle as part of a special use permit is because tattoo artistry is included as part of our adult use ordinance. So the adult use is not strictly limited to sexually oriented businesses. It also included tattoo artistry. So that's the reason for that one additional hurdle. So,
How far is, can I ask a question now, John?
yes.
How far is the 300-foot go down there about? It goes the other side of Peterson's or right to Peterson's? Doesn't seem like it's very large.
Not very far, probably. And I could probably go
How big are-
find the list. Probably just to the end of Peterson's and maybe as far as Blue Heron, but probably not further than that.
It's not a very big area then.
No, not a real large area.
John would have to.
That's the only business he has to worry about is pills.
And again,
spoke up before you guys got here, but
He doesn't need virtually everybody. He just needs to get 51%.
see, so.
What happens if he doesn't get 51%?
Well, it would probably have to be turned down, and you could make a decision whether he felt he needed more time. I think he believes that within a month he could achieve the signature process.
I feel like you're probably doing a good morning.
So, if it turns out a certain amount of time goes on and he's unable to do that, I would think that it would just have to be turned down virtually on the basis of not being able to secure those signatures as it is a requirement of the adult use ordinance.
Does he have to access the residential block behind the building?
Yes.
Part of it, yeah.
Part of it? Yep, okay.
It seems like maybe putting tattoo parlors into that, in this day and age, I mean, it used to be tattoos were pretty rare and the business is kind of
Right. I agree.
sleazy, I
it's
guess
so-
you could say, but
It's something
today
that,
it's,
it's something that we may want to consider in our ordinance rewrite of pulling tattoo parlors out of the adult use ordinance. Probably not pulling it out of the special land use, but at least pulling it out of the adult use ordinance, just simply because it's so prevalent today. I think Mr. Talcott said that he thought maybe, upwards of even 80% of people might have a tattoo nowadays. So it is becoming a fairly mainstream business.
Anybody have anything else for John before we call Mr. Talcott up front? Okay. You want to educate us a little bit before I get into the public hearing? And not that there's anybody else here, but hey, just
I guess
procedure.
public speaking is always a difficult
State
thing.
who you are. and-
Okay, well, my name is Tim Talcott. I'm 38 years old. I was born and raised here in Cadillac. And I graduated from here when I was 16 and went directly to Kendall Art College. And from there, I jumped right into tattooing. So I've got 20 years experience in tattooing, and I traveled all over the place and tattooed. But I always ended up wanting to be here because this is where I'm from, this is my home. But with the difficulties of like renting a storefront and everything like that, always made it a little more pricey. So I spent most of my time on Front Street in Traverse City, and then I would come home and try to work here. But I did do this before on River Street, and I rented a little space there in the Cal Graphics Plaza right there. But with the way I work really private, so having a storefront just becomes a little overwhelming. And in that neighborhood also, it gets a little, you take your tools home with you at the end of the night type thing. So I've always had this kind of dream to have a place like I did on Front Street, to where it was downtown, a little more proper. it would be easy for me to just go work in a tattoo shop to where I don't have to open one. But I actually have really difficult times in tattoo shops because they are kind of sleazy when it comes down to it. To like when you have big mainstream shops with a bunch of people working in it, it's difficult to actually be an artist. You're more of just it's like you're working in a 7-Eleven kind of with all sorts of people. So I've always liked that real private area. My clients really enjoy that too. And most of my clients come from Traverse City area, and they would love it when I would lock the place down. It's just them. Maybe they have someone else with them or whatnot, you know. And it just gives us that whole day to kind of create something special for them. And I had that place over there, but I decided to take a year off because I have 5 kids now. So it was a little bit of a rebuilding time with my family. We bought a barn or a farm and all that good stuff. And so at the year mark is when I actually didn't even approach these people on this. They were searching around for somebody, and they kind of started talking to me about it. And it was something I planned on doing, but I knew that to work downtown, it'd be a little more pricey to try to get a big storefront. And with the opportunity here, I redo furniture, and I actually, with the plants and stuff like that, I do all sorts of planting with like fig trees and everything. So this place, even if you guys don't want, I'll probably work there just as like an artist to create some of their stuff or whatnot. But that's what I'm looking for. The name of the shop will be called Love and Trust Tattoo, and it'll just be me kind of working solely by myself. I've always had a hard time working with other tattooers just because it did get really mainstream. So you don't really have that like old craftsmanship, you know, that's kind of simple, really knowledgeable. Now it's more just this kind of internet craze type thing that doesn't really last a lifetime. And so with the way I apply tattoos and all my craftsmanship, I kind of work for it to be a lifetime type thing. And in Detroit, we have a big tattoo convention. It's an international convention in Detroit that I attend every year. And out of 700 tattooers from around the world, I've always, every time I entered, I took first place for a traditional American tattooer. And what that is it's somebody who builds the machines, makes all the tools, and applies tattooing in an early American fashion, which is kind of a simple aesthetic, but it's kind of built to last. So a lot of my clients, that's why they come to me. That's because I have that traditional American background, or Western tradition, I guess that's what we really call it. And so I guess that's kind of, I didn't write anything down to, you know. But I know I'm going to be in this area since I bought the farm, and I'm going to always be here. It's a burden to have to travel when you have so many kids. And because I'd spend 2.5 hours a day on the road, and then plus doing the stuff around the studio would take up all my time. So I really only see my kids morning, and then I'd wake them up at night to mess with them a little bit. So I guess that's it.
So if I may, what is, quote, a legal age that someone can come in and ask you?
I'm a firm believer in 18, but when I worked in Chicago, it was 21. A lot of and even when I first started tattooing around here, we've always kind of had that adult entertainment thing. So for me, I always took it really serious. And I would always tell people when they brought their kids in, I'm like, if you can't sign a note to buy a pack of cigarettes, why can you sign a note for this? To me, it's just as serious. So a lot of times the parents would thank me later on, and a lot of times those youngsters, they'd later on thank me as well, because I didn't give them this thing. Because the way the human body grows, if you get a tattoo when you're minor, it's just, it's no good. As you age and your body changes and everything like that, it becomes mud basically. And plus we all know teenage angst and anxieties. You never get the tattoo that you want to live with forever. You know, I was heavily tattooed when I was a young kid, and still to this day, even though I'm a tattooer, if I could go back, I wouldn't have neck or hand tattoos, just because I really appreciate the old world style to where it was tucked away and kind of hidden, and then it came out when you felt like bringing it out, you know. So I'm really firm to not tattooing minors. Some parents actually do get mad at me because they want their 15-year-old kid to get a tattoo, and it was never for me. I'd even go work in shops up in Traverse, and when I first started going there, and even a lot of them, the owners would get a little upset with me, and it was just a personal thing. I never felt a child needed a tattoo, mainly because of when I started getting tattooed as a young kid, I was so heavily tattooed, there was no choice to do anything else or work in like a factory.
Kind of a testament to.
Yeah, and still to this day, like my kids, I talk to them about tattoos, and and I'm real strict about everything like that. So, and even when it comes to general public, I like to push away people from getting tattoos that are visible on their neck, and I'll talk to them, and their hands, I'll talk to them about that, about how it really does, you know, burden your career and your job and what you want to do. And most times people will be like, well, I work at Michigan Rubber. But in life, we all know that one day you can work here and you might meet somebody that has a great opportunity for you, and you're not getting that because you have some crap on your neck, you know, or something like, because I've had that type of situation happen before. And so it's just been a real big thing for me. And in the early American style, that's how it was, is they like to be real strict about that. And for me to keep that tradition going, I like to follow that as well.
Awesome. I think that's a good plan. It's working for you.
Yeah.
It's good. Anyone have any questions here for Mr. Talcott? Perfect. You did very good.
Well, thank you very much.
At this time then, well, you can just sit, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing and discuss stuff and keep this in motion for you also. So at this time, board here will go ahead and open the public hearing, again here for the tattoo parlor at the 408/410 North Mitchell Street. Again, if this is something, depending on how the route of this goes, so if we are on board here with Mr. Talcott, that we will have to table this until the next meeting, because he's got to get one more hoop to jump, one more part of the puzzle. Okay?
I'll just ask a question. If all he needs is signatures in the area, and I can't imagine anybody down there saying no, why can't we make a proposal
Let
to
staff
say
decide
that
it.
if he gets the signatures, then it's a done deal, he doesn't have to come back here? Can you do that? Because there's absolutely nothing here that we're gonna ask. He's not gonna put up a fence, he doesn't have to do all this stuff, all he's gotta do is get his signatures.
Yeah, it strikes me as something that you would be able to do. I sometimes hesitate to give too legal an opinion, but I think we could. I think we could probably do that. I could confirm with the attorney if for some reason he felt that we couldn't do that, then
So
we
could just make it
as a secondary thing, we could say,
attachment.
you know, make a motion to approve subject to the
Subject to the
subject,
signatures.
and then in the absence of that being acceptable legally, that it would just revert to a tabling to the next meeting.
That would be.
That way we cover it both ways.
I just, if you look at it, there's nothing here that he doesn't meet on the zoning ordinance, special land permits or uses. And the recommendations is to give him approval from staff, and tables the special land use permit application just seems kind of ludicrous. How fast do you want to get into your building?
Right now, as soon as possible. Right now, I'm constructing walls and doing a lot of fabrication, so that would actually take me a little bit of time.
November 1st,
That would be
15th?
wonderful, yeah. I have
'Cause-
to do it after work, because I also, I work in a garage where I build old hot rods and stuff like that. So I go from that to going there and working on the building.
Because if we don't do it tonight, then you're not going to get signed off until a month from now.
And who knows if we'll have a meeting next month.
That's right. Heck,
Well, we would. if
we're
this
gonna
was
go.
it.
We're gonna all go to Florida.
The soonest I
Are you
can
going to
do
Florida?
the best,
Yeah.
because I think my employees
Bob will
know
be.
staff
Well,
for
Dave
wanting
goes
to
at point.
do this, because I bring a lot to the table at the
Oh.
group I work at. So now with me doing this, they're kind of like, man, we don't have our welder and our guy that builds things.
well, then obviously they weren't paying you enough, were they?
That's exactly it. I've calculated all the numbers, and per child, I mean, I make $71 a week for my family per person, and that's usually, in tattooing, I charge $100 an hour. So this was a huge step to go from tattooing to that, and it's put a real rough kind of spot on me. And
We
so
can
that-
still do that on the side. I mean, you don't have to do specifically, do nothing but your
Yeah.
tattoos. But as like I said, I don't see why we'd have to have another meeting. I mean,
Yeah, if staff.
anybody got a problem with that?
No, if staff can make that, that's great.
Do business needs to be done.
And then if you wanted to switch the motion to approval subject to the signatures, I guess then the only remaining question would be if you wanted any restrictions on the approval, because remember, it's not just approving his application. As soon as, if he were to ever leave that location, it runs with the land. So the owner of that building could put somebody else in there. So I don't know if you want to put any caps on it. You know, you might be really happy with his plan, but how about, you know, if you leave it general, just a tattoo parlor, you could have the owner putting in 2 or 3 tattoo artists in the future. You might not want a big shop there. And so you just have to think about whether you want to limit the approval to the plan that he intends to operate at that location.
Can you call it a one-time?
Well, 'cause
Or
it-
just
it
a
goes with the
single
land.
artist.
Goes with the land, so
Right.
you'd wanna put, yeah, you want a
It would be
one-man
just-
show. to the
So-
one-man
Single
show.
artist.
So, yeah, there's nothing that would stop somebody from coming back and seeking another approval for more artists, but then it would have to come back through. It's the same way when the self-repair shop came in. We didn't allow it to be converted to a general car repair business. It had to stay as a self-repair business. This would be the same kind of thing, that we would be limiting it to his plan to operate the business there in the way he has proposed.
He's proposed, right? I think that's
Wow, so-
good info,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah.
Do you have any problem with the limitations that you've outlined?
That is something I had thought about prior to this month, because I had known that if it would pass, that it would open that up for others and stuff like that. So that's something I had thought about as well.
And it doesn't restrict us from letting somebody else go in there, but
So-
they'd have to come back and ask
Yeah, we-
permission.
So in other words, we would have to go through this process again if you ever wanted to add artists to your business.
I think that's fair.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we say that, John?
Well, decide which of the things that he's offered to do. I don't know if you ever want to work the weekends. I don't know if we want to really, you've said work hours of operation 9 to 5. Do you want to extend that through the weekend just to be on?
Usually I would be on a Saturday, but I'm pretty firm that, like with church on Sunday, I don't work on Sundays at all.
So I would limit it.
Kids that have weekends are usually,
I would limit it to 9 to 5, Monday through Saturday. That works for you?
It could be a little late, it could be earlier and later, like 8 to
Yeah.
7 or 8 to 8 or something.
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah,
a,
you
work evenings or whatever. I don't have a problem with
want
that.
to do 8 to 8?
Yeah, I don't want to limit them, because somebody like me, if I wanted to come up and get a tattoo, I couldn't be here till 5 o'clock or 5:30.
All right.
so I
So-
figure sometimes like if somebody comes in, they happen to have like a 4 appointment, the studio would be closed, but it just might be me and them.
What hours would you like to see on it?
The building's only gonna be open from 9 to 5, but with myself, I'd probably be in there, I drop kids off at school at 8, I'd probably be there about 9, and, most likely I'd be around there till about 8 o'clock, cause after I get done, I have to clean up and stuff like that.
But you're not doing business and the cleanup part of it, so.
Cause usually in a tattoo parlor, when you're open up after dark and stuff like that, that's when you get characters starting around, and with that place as well, everybody kind of works together, so if you have one place that's open and then the rest isn't, it kind of, people wander around, and that's something where you don't want to have. You want to have it where we're all kind of there at the same time.
8 to 8 is all right?
All right, 8 to 8, Monday through Saturday. Okay.
Okay, and you have to pass a health,
Yeah, I've worked with the health department for many years.
okay, but you have to pass that, so do we need to use that as a stipulation, or no?
It's already
I-
stated in here that he has to do that.
Then we're good then, okay?
And then do you want to limit it to just himself, or do you want to give him the
Yeah.
capacity to add one
Single
person?
artist.
Yeah, then
Just
if
for
you-
him.
If he wants to
Just for him?
choose something, come back, yeah.
Okay.
Give it to him, yeah.
So we got single artist, 8 to 8, Monday through Saturday, and signatures required.
Right.
And, how do you want to say it, and, approved by you and the attorney, or staff?
With a confirmation that this motion is legal by the attorney, and then the added, if it turns out we can't condition this approval tonight,
We'll table
that,
it.
that it's an automatic, that the motion converts to a tabling until our next meeting.
I'd like to make that motion that you
Oh,
just
hang on.
went through. Oh.
Yeah, 'cause
Oh.
we got, I got
We're still
public
discussing.
hearing or nothing, you guys are just moving. So, okay, those in favor here tonight, or have spoken. Is there anyone in the audience this evening to speak against the proposed tattoo parlor at the address in 408/410 North Mitchell? Okay, there being no response, okay, at this time, I will go ahead and close public hearing. Close. Now, gentlemen, please.
Have our discussion we've already had.
It's okay. Am I doing okay up here? All right.
Yeah.
You're doing fine.
You
Perfect.
spell well?
No.
Yeah. You look at some of the artists, I've seen some of their mistakes, so to speak.
Oh, it's, when I work with people on lettering, we sit down together and spell things out and everything like that to make sure things are real properly done, especially with birth dates as well, because I always tell them, like, I don't know when your dad was born, but you do. So I have a certain paperwork for that to where it makes sure that everything's done properly.
And once it's on there, that's when he was born,
Yeah.
No matter what.
no matter what.
Okay. So now we'll entertain.
Now I'd like to make my
a
motion that John has written down over there, if he would like to read it back to us.
Okay.
Okay, this would be a motion to approve the special land use permit for Mr. Talcott with with the conditions, limitations on the business operation. It would be limited to operating from 8 to 8, Monday through Saturday. It would be for a single artist studio, subject to his obtaining the needed signatures per our adult use ordinance, which I believe is 51%. And then just confirming that the approval subject to is satisfactory from a legal perspective from our attorney. If it is, then we're fine. And then the added piece to the motion is that if it can't be done that way, that essentially we're affecting a tabling until the next meeting.
Sure. Cover everything?
Yeah, I kind of like that. You okay with that?
Okay. Okay, who
Do
seconded
we have a
it?
second?
Mr. Fent?
Okay. Ready for roll call?
Yes, sir.
Schichtel,
Yes.
Bent,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Filkins,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Putvin.
Yes.
Carries unanimously.
Are they splitting that other, so since you want more privacy, I'm assuming that you're not gonna be up at the front of the building with the windows?
And right now, I'm fabricating some walls out of some scrap steel and random stuff and old vintage church stained glass windows. And
Oh, that'd be great.
the studio is what it's gonna be, is we wanna make it where when you walk in, it's just a creative feeling, and it's, the studio is actually a piece of art as well. And, because all of us there, we all went to college for interior design, and so that's one of the biggest things that we're trying to create, is just an environment that just calms you and opens your mind and makes you think creative.
So you're gonna use the north entrance is gonna come into you? They're not adding another door? John had mentioned another door, front door?
They haven't said anything to me about another door. There's one door on the north and one door on the south.
Right.
And then there's a hallway that's being built in the middle right now. They might be planning on one in the front. I'm not for sure.
I think they are, and maybe that's the timing of that door is maybe.
Well, maybe that's to access the front part you won't be in, up by the windows.
Right, there's gonna be a coffee.
You want it
coffee-
private, and I'm like, hey, you're not gonna be up.
Yeah, nobody will see me from the front. You'll drive by and not even see me, because I'll be in the back, like in the corner area back
Right.
there.
Okay. Now, are they taking that Because there was kind of a storage room back there. Is that wall coming out? And
No, that's all gonna stay in there because that's gonna be like a wood shop kind of where we work on the furniture.
Okay.
We're also gonna be, all of us have studied stained glass windows as well.
Okay.
So we're gonna kind of build like a stained glass window studio also within there and just kind of tour. There'll be some days when I'm in there that I actually won't even be tattooing, that I'll just be creating art. And that's what I've always done in my studios as well. I'll just come into work and just make art on those designated days. And then on certain days, I'll make tattoos.
okay. Okay. Good deal. We good on that one?
Yep, I think we're
Perfect.
good.
Perfect. Congrats on that.
Do I have to get, is there like specific paperwork for the petition or the signatures to where it has their address?
I will get with our attorney on that, make sure that you get the right format for the signatures. I'll get with you very soon on that.
And you're welcome to stay, not that we have much left, but just let you know. Okay. Old business, there being none at this time. Any board member comments at this time?
Yeah, good luck with your endeavor.
Could
No?
John bring us up to date on the Cadillac Junction? Just,
Oh.
not a few minutes.
You opened a can of worms.
Well, you hear a lot of rumors.
We
and-
spent a lot of hours in here on that.
But just,
What?
Well, I don't know, Mayor, if you've been briefed on anything. I haven't been, but I don't know in closed sessions, but I don't know if any of the things in closed session can be, as far as,
They really can't. I mean, right now, it's, you know, it's going back to the court. And it's the developer's desire to, you know, be within the city of Cadillac. But, you know, should the court not rule that way, then, you know, we'll have to figure out how we can work together. So, but the city is doing its best to protect its best interest, taxpayers' best interest. You know, we have infrastructure out there now. So, but we should, I think they're going, are they in court this week?
I'm not sure, I haven't heard.
You know, to put stays on things, and so, everything that has happened, thus far, the paper's done a pretty good job of covering it. You know, because there's all these suits out there now, you know, Clam Lake, Herring Township against the city, and the developer against, you know, and so, you know, and the city has filed suit too to protect its infrastructure. So,
At this time, that project's on stop, right?
it's not.
Not?
No, they can finish, nobody
They can
has
finish
said.
what they did on-
Mhm,
okay.
Yeah,
So
so
they-
they're moving ahead and they're finishing that building, and
Okay.
I drove by there, oh gosh, last Wednesday, and they were still finishing up the building, and they working on the roadway a little bit more, so there has not been a stay put on anything to say,
Oh,
you know, you can't do that.
okay.
So
Interesting.
their desire is to finish it up and to keep moving forward. But until the court says you can't do anything more, they're continuing.
Why did this come about?
Oh, gosh.
Well, that goes.
Just real quick, this was all supposed to be a done deal.
Yep.
We went through the courts, we got everything approved. This gentleman has done, he's jumped through hoops trying to make
Yep.
sure everything was correct and satisfied the people in the area. And now it just seems like it's starting all over.
Well, it went to the Supreme Court, and they came back with a ruling that no one in the whole state of Michigan, I mean, this is setting precedents if this goes through. This is-
overruled it.
They overruled it, and they were willing to listen to it again. And so they basically said that the Boundary Commission didn't have the right to do what they did. So,
But wasn't that the process that everybody else was using?
that's correct. So,
Everybody's now lost all their ability, all the ones that have been approved like that can now be,
well, can they be undone? I don't know. I mean,
They undid that one?
yeah. So what I'm saying though is, from a statewide perspective, you know, this is unheard of. Nobody expected it. So, because it couldn't really, let me say this correctly, John. I mean, if you look at the town of Gaylord, the townships and the city of Gaylord have worked so well together, and they're just booming up there. They are just working so well together. But now with this ruling, I mean, it could set people back, and it could really hurt communities. You know, and the ability to, 425 allows cities and townships to work together, with revenue sharing and to be able to move forward. A 425 is supposed to promote development, and the 425 out there is not promoting development.
The
So-
problem is it challenges the ability for cities to grow.
Yeah.
And that is their natural pattern. Cities are intended to grow.
Right,
But if you don't allow a process where they are allowed to grow, then you've got a real dysfunction.
right. And this was the process that would have allowed us to do that. I mean, if you look at what we accomplished in just that short period of time, that 2 or 3 years that we've had, that, we went through all of these meetings here, and look what we were able to accomplish. And if they reverse all of that, I mean, it's just gonna cause a tremendous amount of harm not only here, but
Throughout the state.
throughout the state of Michigan.
Next question, I don't know if you can answer it or not.
I'll do my
We as a
best.
city have invested a lot of time, energy, and cash in improving all the facilities out that way. So if it should go where we can't do it, then what does the city have to do? Can we recoup our money from whoever picks it up as an area?
No. I mean, all of that is to be determined at this point. But what I can say to you is that the city owns not only that what we paid for, but what the developer paid for as far as that underground infrastructure. We own all of that. So,
What he paid.
but the developer paid for it, and we've already stepped through the process of accepting that infrastructure, and we now own it.
Okay. That's so we maintain it? The
Yes.
city of Cadillac maintains it?
Yes.
Okay.
How long has this been blowing in the wind, this development?
Oh, it's gotta be over 10 years that the developer's been trying to, I'm guessing 10, it could be longer than
I
that.
would be embarrassed if I was any part of the court system or legal system that relays this one way or another.
Yeah.
Sorry if I offended any of the legal.
They'll get it.
No.
None are here this evening.
They'll get it.
None of them are here, but, it's, none of this is ever about wanting to offend anybody, but it's a
Right.
tremendous,
Never was that.
it's a tremendous opportunity for our community.
So it's back in the township then?
Yes, Herring
This time.
Township.
And then, but the development hasn't been stopped per se?
Not yet,
I thought it was, but.
yeah,
Thank
not
Yeah, I
yet.
thought it was too.
They're not gonna put up any more buildings, but they're gonna
Right.
finish what they're
Until-
working on. But they're going to try and get it stopped.
Oh, okay.
And if you've been by there, oh my.
Yeah, it's
Does that
beautiful.
look nice?
Well, but the usage it is getting, oh my.
Oh, yeah, it is never
Never.
without a tremendous amount, always busy. I never go by there, it's
Did you
not
hit it
busy.
Labor Day weekend?
Hmm?
I did. I got gas.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
goes in and
People are really, really appreciating that at that 131 and 55. It's a quick on, quick off.
It is.
Or quick off, quick on.
Either way.
Whichever way.
Either way.
Right? It's convenient.
it is.
It's convenient.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But the berms are in place and all that
Yes.
nicely. and-
Yep, they've done a beautiful job with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, they do get some lights when you pull out,
a little bit.
a little bit.
Yeah. But they offered to, they
They
offered
offered
trees.
trees that
yep.
could have went there, but I
Yep.
noticed when I left there, my lights hit some of them.
Yeah, and I haven't noticed that the neighbors across the way have taken advantage of those larger trees that they said they would put in.
They have,
Oh, okay.
5 out of the 6 homeowners accepted the
Oh,
full
good.
complement of trees.
Good.
Good.
So those have all been installed.
Okay. I haven't really, I should have, but I guess I haven't really paid attention to it.
Update on the Highway Department building. I thought we were gonna have a special meeting, but I see we didn't have a special meeting, but is that, obviously something's moving forwards, because they're digging stuff down.
He's
to
putting in a parking lot.
Making it
And a new
handy
entrance.
access stuff. Did we, our input wasn't needed? I don't know, I'm just asking.
The standard protocol on commercial site plans has been for staff and department heads to review those site plans. And so everyone that was, all the department heads did review it. And there's nothing going on with the building per se, except facade renovations. And I think they're putting in a small entrance off the back. The idea behind the parking lot going down was to create ability for direct handicapped access into the building. And then there will be a handicapped employee in the facility, so there will be a lift added to the building to facilitate that. But it will have complete new lighting. There will be a retaining wall on the back of the parking lot and a barrier so that nobody in the alley, can drive off the alleyway down into the parking lot. And they will have a new two-way access from Mitchell into the parking lot. And that'll be directly aligned with the Chemical Bank driveway. So that's the best outcome you can hope for. You don't want to misalign driveways. You want them to be directly opposed to each other if they're close to each other. And MDOT has approved the driveway just like they approved the driveway for the Cadillac Junction. So, it's been gone over thoroughly. The parking need, is estimated at probably somewhere in the 25 to 30 car range. It will be, I think it's about a 35 car parking lot. And the drainage, kind of a cool thing, is being designed to not need the city's storm drain system. They're designing a self-contained system to dispose of the stormwater for the parking lot directly on site. So that's something that the state has encouraged us to do, and in some of our downtown planning, is to minimize the direct flow outfall of stormwater into the lake. And in this case, we've been able to do that.
Good. Cool. Now, was he given like a PUD on that?
He didn't need a PUD on that. What he will need when he wants to come in and do the Olson block, that will have direct involvement with the Planning Commission, because the Planning Commission would have to accept the PUD. The current mixed-use PUD ordinance could be used by that developer on the Olson block, but this board has to accept the reasons that he is submitting for applying to you for the PUD. And so I'm guessing probably if it's moving forward nicely, maybe at your next meeting, you would probably have to review his application for PUD and make a decision that you're willing to accept it, and then set a public hearing for the development plan for the Olson block. And that's because it would be coming through on the mixed-use PUD ordinance, the same one that was used for Cadillac Junction.
He's talking about moving the driveway into the Olson's property too, like closing off the entryway into G&D from Mitchell Street, because he's amazed that no one's been killed in that parking lot.
The entrance off in Mitchell Street is physically in there.
Is what?
It's in there. It's operational.
Oh, into the new parking lot?
Yes, but the parking lot's not complete. It's the driveway off Mitchell into the parking lot is paved.
The Mitchell Bentley building, or the Cobb's Mitchell building parking lot. He went back to that, is what he's talking about.
Okay.
I skipped forward over to
Yep,
the Olson's
you-
property.
Zing. We went zing. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So, anyway.
I've had in our neighborhood, actually, I was in Traverse City a couple weeks ago. I noticed Traverse City has a number, and they're permanently mounted, radar speed signs, okay? I have a neighbor at the end of my block who got with city police here, and we have the portable speed radar check unit at the end of my block right now. Because by the time they would hit her place, so sitting on my porch evening here, having a refreshment, it's very cool to look down at that and see the number of vehicles right as they round there and it turns into Lincoln from Carmel. That thing picks up way down there past that church, okay? And it's way up actually by Blodgett, so there's quite a distance, but the speeds are in the 30, that's when it starts flashing at you. You're above 29. But the number of people that round that, it's interesting to see, 30 to 35 mile an hour. So by the time they would hit her house, I'm sure they're hitting all of 40. Thus her concern, okay? So my comment anyway is Travers has a lot of permanent ones on streets. What's interesting is I sit there and view it, I can see when somebody come around that corner. I can't see them at all. They're way down. But the speed, and once they focus and see that sign,
Back off.
I can watch it drop. And 9 out of 10 vehicles will drop, and in all honesty, they will be under 25 by the time they go by that. Thus, there's way more residential as they hit that also. So I'm just curious, these things work when people see them,
Yes.
okay?
It'll be interesting to reach out to Traverse City and see
There.
how they financed those and who they worked with to put them in place, and, you know, how to decide where within the city they put them.
Right.
There's a lot of places that it's helpful.
I would think, you know, if, you know,
I mean,
there
that's
might
a
be a
good-
safety grant out there that,
That's a good interim solution. I mean, the real solution to these problems are designing roads where you don't feel comfortable driving more than the speed limit, because you would feel unsafe doing more than 25 miles an hour. And that's the real trick. And you do that by things like medians and other things, that side frictions, that there's just enough going on that you would no way feel comfortable driving too fast.
Put in there, so you got the church, and if it's not doing nothing, there's a lot of openness, straight road.
right,
And they
Trees are another thing. You know, I think this is where the state gets it wrong. Is they get concerned about people leaving the roadway and hitting the trees, but I don't think that's a legitimate concern. I mean, could it happen? Sure, but you could hit a building too. So,
Sure.
and the
Better than hitting a
installation
person.
and the installation of the trees, yeah, it insulates the walkers on the sidewalk, but it also has the effect of sometimes slowing people down by as much as 5 miles an hour because of the enclosure that it creates on the street. And so I think when you weigh the whole thing, it's easily a better solution to have the trees. Now, granted, maybe if they were directly behind the curb, but if you've got a curb lawn that's 10 or 15 feet wide and it's in the center of that curb lawn, I don't see an issue with that.
There
In
was
fact-
a lawsuit that the state of Michigan lost over in Manistee County a number of years back. The tree was, or the cross-section of the road had a drainage ditch that was about 75, 80 feet from center line. Over time, this tree grew up in an area that was 40 feet from the edge of pavement. And some woman lost control and hit the tree and was crippled real bad as a result.
Right.
The lawsuit went against the state of Michigan because that tree was in the area that had been constructed.
Well, and it depends on the speed limit too. Again, like in our downtown area, the posted speed is 25 miles an hour, and you have a 6-inch curb, and you know, if the road was designed to move people at 25 miles an hour, this wouldn't even be an issue. Unfortunately, it was designed to move people at a much faster rate, and I think therein lies the problem. But if you're moving 20 or 25 miles an hour, these trees should not really be that much of a obstacle or a danger to the motoring public.
I think most people go past our house at between 50
My
and 60.
discussion was
Oh, they
out
do.
in the open roadway.
Right. Yeah, if you're in a 45, 55 mile an hour speed limit with wide lanes, that's an entirely different situation.
Well, another problem area, Platte Road, there's not that many houses, and try and run 25 there. I'm very conscious of it because they have the sign there. The sign, again, 9 out of 10 people, calm down. They work, it works.
You know what
That's
else
all.
you could do though, John? It'd be a lot more fun too, is just get one of those target deer and a little trail, a track, and if somebody comes flying down, you let it go flying down, hit the side of the road, and just have a little thing to crank it up. That'll slow them down too.
Yeah, yeah,
Be a lot more fun to do too.
it would. Video that, we could
Yeah,
maybe
we
win
make
money.
some money.
Yeah,
The other signs.
Okay.
Indiana, when I was working in Indiana, they had the same thought process about being against trees, but I think as I was leaving there, they were just getting ready to loosen the laws for for urban environments to allow the trees to go in the curb lawns in urban environments. So I think they adjusted to, something that made a lot more sense.
Any other board member comments before we keep,
I got
get us
a-
out of here?
Question
Yes, Joe.
about the market. Like, we had a
Mark?
groundbreaking ceremony, and I didn't hear what the prognosis is as far as seeing, development.
We should be, the structure itself is being built as we speak. Well, maybe not right this second, but that's being constructed off-site. I just asked Marcus about this at the end of last week because I hadn't heard anything, but you will start to see some ground moving yet this fall. Yeah.
Will
And
it be in operation next summer?
It will be. Yep, and we've already had people asking about being able to have their class reunions there. We had the Cadillac Community Foundation is having like their 50th or 75th anniversary, and they want to have their celebration there. So people are already wanting to schedule it. So, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of interest in
Yeah.
it, and I want to see it done.
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
And we should be very soon about hearing from the state on our grant for the trailhead too, maybe in another month or two. And initial signs are that we scored relatively high. Well, we scored high enough that if it had been last year, we would have been awarded the grant. So you can't apply last year's applications to this year, but at least it's looking encouraging. It's not done yet, obviously, but we're hopeful.
Thank you for all the updates. Anybody else have anything else yet?
I'm good.
Okay, all right.
Other than what's going on out the street, because I don't live here, only 2 days a week, what's going on?
Raven,
Out on Mitchell.
they had a leak in water pipes, so they had to dig down and they repaired it overnight last Thursday night?
Thursday night.
Yeah. The staff went home and then started back up at 11 at night, and they had it done so that businesses could open at 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Most of the barrels are right out
Elks
the
was
street.
down. They
Yeah.
got them up Friday,
Oh.
about 3,
Yeah.
because they had a big dinner gig. And they
Yeah.
were really worried, and they bought all these steaks and
Right,
had
well, same with
reservations
the
and-
clam, yeah, so it was a bit tenuous, but the work had to be done because what was gonna happen was that main was gonna break, and then nobody would have been in business. So the staff worked really well, I think, with the businesses downtown, and they worked all night long to fix it, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, we're also probably going to hear, probably in a month or two, whether we're going to get a grant from Rotary Charities for some bike racks in the plaza area, and also a little bit on Mitchell as well. So we're hopeful that that comes through too, because it'll be the start of showing what the vision is for thinking about bikes downtown wide as a broader planning measure.
And I have to tell you guys too, we went down to the Michigan Municipal League's fall conference down in Holland, and they had a popular vote, if you will, online. And our plaza project, it wasn't the whole commons area; it was just specifically the plaza project. You had to be in the top 4 to be considered for the Community Excellence Award at the fall conference. The online popular vote, Cadillac's project, was number 1 going into it down at the conference. And then we could set up a table, and then it was up to the people who were there at the conference. Well, you know, Holland is right next door to the community that actually won. But people around the state are looking at Cadillac right now, and we just held a live a conference. Michigan Municipal League came into town, and we had a live conference, live feed down here on the plaza to talk about our project, and they have had somebody author a project, and Cadillac is featured in it.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
you know, and, you know, the people at the conference down in Holland were, this one guy was really funny. He said that he was voting for our project because I never stopped smiling the whole time that I was talking to him about our project. So, what I'm really excited about, though, is when we can go back to that fall conference with our entire Cadillac Commons project as a whole. And what was really unique about our presentation was it was a grassroots effort. We have completely funded that by donations and grants, and it didn't cost the taxpayers anything. And the other 3 projects that were presented down in Holland all had developers who came in, you know, and they financed it. And ours was a completely grassroots effort. So I'm really proud of the community for that.
It really looks nice.
Yeah, so I can't wait to actually take back the whole Commons project, because that's going to be amazing.
Yep.
So,
Well, that ties it all together.
it does. I had a hard time not talking about the whole thing when we were just supposed to be talking about the plaza, because I kept trying to connect the dots for people. And it's like, no, it's much bigger than this, but,
It's not there yet.
yeah.
Good? Everybody okay? Anything else, Mr. Wallace, on your end,
No,
sir?
I think
Okay.
that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
My husband's 60th birthday. I got to get home.
He's just
Okay,
a baby.
very
He's
nice.
cooking for me.
Cooking?
Really?
Perfect.
Yeah.
No
So,
other
thank you.
communications then? No other public comments? No other business? We're out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go home.
Good to see you guys
Don't
again.
get wet.